they always call it driving for dollars. Like, yeah, you should drive for dollars and waste a whole bunch of gas. And man, gas is expensive, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, why? Because that burns up a lot of time, gas, and all that kind of stuff. So my one of my strategies, and I have 33 different ways that I use to find properties, but one of them is
Joining us today is Mr. Sai Lee. Sai, can you start by telling us a bit about your background and how you got started in real estate wholesaling?
for sure. So in my previous life, I used to be an IT consultant. So I just work in 9 to 5. I live in I'm from Ontario. And so I'm from a city called Kitchener. And at the time, as an IT consultant, I had to commute to work. My clients were in Toronto, so I had to spend 2 hours of my day taking public transportation to get to work, another 2 hours getting back to work, back home from work. And so I did the math one day and I realized that I was spending 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week on public transportation. And it just dawned upon me one day. I'm like, man, dude, I do not want to do this for the rest of my life because 20 hours a week is a lot to give up, especially if you're working to make somebody else rich. It just doesn't make sense. so, so I was building my bank account up at the time because they paid me really well. I mean, don't get me wrong, their money was great, but my bank account was growing, and I started looking at investment options. So I started looking at, should I be investing in stocks? Should I buy a business? I wasn't even thinking about real estate, to be honest, because I didn't want to be a tenant or landlord or homeowner or anything like that. I was just a young guy. It's like, should I just go buy a business? I don't know. Anyways, I networked with a lot of successful people in business, and they kept telling me, well, why don't you just buy real estate? I mean, everybody's making millions of dollars through real estate, and it's one of the easiest and lowest hanging fruit, ways of making money. I mean, somebody told me at the time, 90% of people, I mean, millionaires are generated through real estate. And then when I heard that ratio, I'm like, what? That's so high. Like, what are you guys talking about? So I started looking at real estate. I ended up in the picking real estate as my investment vehicle. And the way that I approached it was that, I quickly learned that if I was going to go and buy rental properties, 20% down, just like all the regular stuff, cool. You know what? That would have made me wealthy either way. I think even till this day, that same strategy would still work. It's just that you have to have a lot of patience for it. I didn't at the time. I was trying to get out of my 9 to 5. So I'm like, how do I accelerate this? I hired my first coach mentor, and my coach and mentor is like, well, let me show you how to go and buy houses using none of your own money. And we can build a scalable business where, we can get out of the 9 to 5 sooner than having to wait, 10, 20 years or whatever that might be. And I said, okay, cool. I'm interested. So wrote him a big check, and he taught me pretty much everything there is about creative ways of buying, flipping, selling real estate. And I ended up picking wholesaling as my first strategy. And ever since I learned how to wholesale, I just never looked back. Retired from my 9 to 5 within 5 years of doing that. And yeah, it just kind of like blew up from there, man.
Damn, and what's interesting is a lot of people that I know that started out on the wholesaling side started out just because they want to get into real estate, but they didn't actually have any funds. Now, on the other hand, you actually had money growing in a bank account, but you still chose the hustling side of real estate investing, right? The wholesaling grind. I love that, man. I
Did.
love that.
It did, but you know why, already? Because my coach and mentor, we played a game, and he's like, listen, I want you to go and buy as many houses as possible without using none of your own money. And the day that you use your own money, you lose. And so I'm like, okay, I accept a challenge. Because he's like, if you want to be a pro side, you don't use your own money. And we
Yeah.
will play that game for as long as possible. And I think I hit a record of like 30 no money down deals by the time I actually started putting my own money into my own deals. And so that's when I lost the game.
Yeah. Tell you one thing, that teaches you how to be very, very resourceful.
Yes. That's what he was trying to teach me. Yeah.
And for people listening out there, they was probably wondering like, what is this wholesaling? What exactly is wholesaling, and how does it differ from other real estate investment strategies?
Absolutely. So basically, in a nutshell, in the most simplest form is that go and find a property that is, well, most likely what you want to do is you want to find something under market value. Okay. And all you're going to do is you're just going to flip this property to another buyer who wants to pay you more money for it. And all you're going to do is you're going to collect the spread. So if you think about it, if you're doing it this right, well, you can create your own margins. You decide based on your efforts, based on your skills of finding properties and putting deals together, you decide how big of a profit you want to make. There's no cap on it. That's what I love about it. And you don't own anything, right? All you're doing at the end of the day is you're just flipping paper.
Exactly. You're not selling the property. You're selling your right to buy the property to someone else, essentially, right?
Correct. That's right.
What motivated you to pursue wholesaling as the primary real estate investment method? Now, you said your coach opened up the doors to all the different creative investing strategies. Why wholesaling in particular?
Because you know what, Elray, I'm a pretty lazy investor, man. So what do I mean by that? Well, I don't like renovations. I have my mortgage license as well, and I know what process, like what you need to do to go get a mortgage. Like it's a lot of effort, man. So yes, there is effort that you have to put in when you're fixing and flipping houses, when you're rehabbing homes, when you're doing burrs, when you're fixing and flipping multifamily, you're doing burrs on multifamily, even getting the mortgage loan. Like it's work. So I'm a very simple guy. I always run my business in the most simple, most efficient operations possible. That's just how I am as an entrepreneur. And so I chose wholesaling because the strategy is simple. Buy low, sell high. That's it. And as long as you do it right, like you can literally be doing all of this in your pajamas. Because most of the times, like pretty much all my properties that I flip, I've never seen most of them. I haven't seen most of them. It's just wheeling and dealing in your pajamas at home. So that's why I chose it. It just fits my kind of personality and my style as an entrepreneur.
Now, honestly, I'm actually intrigued by your method on how you did this in your pajamas, because I know a lot of other wholesalers that are like out there door knocking, viewing homes, doing that kind of thing. So, of course, you must have a different method to how you did it, because I know there's multiple ways to go about it, right? Multiple ways on finding the leads and going about that. Do you mind just brushing over your method? I'm sure there's a whole lot of intricacies around it, but just a broad overview.
Sure. So I'll give you a perfect example, okay, Elry? So, they always call it driving for dollars. Like, yeah, you should drive for dollars and waste a whole bunch of gas. And man, gas is expensive, okay? Like, go ahead and drive around neighborhoods and look for distress homes. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Because that burns up a lot of time, gas, and all that kind of stuff. So, my one of my strategies, and I have 33 different ways that I use to find properties. But one of them is, why don't I just go and make friends with the people that are already in those neighborhoods? The post office guy, the UPS guy, the Canada Post guy, the people that are already mailing and in those neighborhoods all the time. So I would just go make friends with them and say, listen, are you always on this route all the time? He's like, yep, I'm here all the time. Cool. So listen, every single time you hear of anything, anybody selling a house, or if you see a house that's really distressed, grass is really long, you can just tell that the house hasn't been taken care of. Can you text me the address with a picture? That's all I want from you. And if you do that for me, I will send you $5 for every single for every single lead. And they'll say, for real? It's like, yeah, man, don't worry about it. And so that's all I would do. I would basically leverage bird dogs on the ground already and let them do the work for me, so that I could just sit at home and and collect the pictures as they come in and send it out. $5, $5, $5. But it's a numbers game, because when you hit big, you hit big. So you do one deal, you get $50,000 a deal. Guess what? Now you have more marketing dollars. So what do you do next? Well, if you want to go farm a neighborhood, I would pay some kid that already lives in that neighborhood that wants to go for a walk and get some exercise, and I would just say, hey man, you're a teenager, like, do you have a job? Like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know, nothing, man. Cool. How would you like to make some money? I want you to go and put I want you to go and put this out on everybody's door for me. Okay, I'll pay you 10 cents a door, whatever. It's like, just leverage, right? It's way better than me being out there on foot, wasting all my time and efforts doing it, because my value as a real estate investor is building the business and putting deals together. That's how my hourly wage explodes through the roof, not by driving for dollars.
100%, man. That's honestly the biggest thing that separates the wealthy from the people who aren't wealthy is just everyone gets the same amount of time, but the wealthy people learn to leverage other people's time, right? So,
100%.
I honestly I love that, man. Now, so were you just tracking down, like just looking for these Canada Post UPS kind of drivers and like, hey, how's it going? And then they'd send you a picture. So once they'd send you a picture and an address, what would you do from there? How would you take that on from there?
Oh, because once I know the address, it really just comes down to finding the owners, right? So finding the owners, there's a couple ways to do it. Like you can run a title search, see if you can find them online. There were ways. I'll tell you an extreme example. Okay, Alray, I was trying to get a hold of one guy before. I was like, oh, yo, I really want to buy this guy's house. Kept sending him mail and all that kind of stuff, and he didn't get back to me. So I'm like, you know what, I really want to buy this property. So I put one of those bandit signs, like one of those
Yeah.
lawn bandit signs, and I put it right in front of his lawn. Yeah. And then one day he gets home and he sees it right on his lawn. And he's pissed off, man. He's like, he's like, yo, man, why did you put this on my lawn? And I'm just telling the guy, like, yo, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. Like, listen, I was trying to get your attention. I was wondering if you want to sell your house. Yeah, because obviously, you're not taking care of it. So can I buy it at least? And he wasn't ready to sell at the time, but he wasn't mad about it. I just said, "Listen, man, I'm really sorry that I ruined your day. Let me like at least send you like a $20 Starbucks gift card or something to to make it up to you or something." But if you ever decide to sell, can you like at least let me know? So you see, if I send him the $20 Starbucks gift card, I will also give him like my business card in there. And it just makes me stand out because one day when
Yeah.
he actually does want to sell it, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy that put that sign on my lawn and sent me a gift card as well." And I will always be thinking about that one guy that pissed me off.
Yes.
So it's just little things like that that you can do to make an impression, so that they can think of you first when they want to sell.
I love that creativity. I really do. Okay, okay. So yeah, it's tracking down the homeowners, and then comes the negotiation side.
Exactly.
How are you going about that though? I take it in those situations, it comes down to leveraging your power team, of course, as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah, man, 100%. That's where real estate's really all about. At the end of the day, it's just like it's a team sport, man. I really believe that you can invest in real estate virtually anywhere. You can even do it with the burst strategy. You can do it with multifamily, but you just have to build the right virtual team. That's all it is. Have an eyes and ears. Hire somebody that is going to be you on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Hire somebody that you trust that can go look at the house for you, that can go do this for you, that can even like go and sign the well, go and like basically take the paperwork from you and bring it to the seller to get signed. You know what I mean?
I have a question that I get often is, how do you determine the potential profit margin on a wholesale deal? What factors do you consider? And doing it doing it virtually as well, how are you getting the estimated rehab cost so that you could run your numbers like an investor would and add your assignment fee on top of that?
So you know what makes a good deal to me, Elray? A good deal to me is any deal where the seller is willing to sell it to me at the right price. That's it.
Absolutely.
I actually don't really have no special formula or Excel sheet or anything. As long as I'm picking up that property at the right price, at a price that my buyer wants, it's a good deal. I keep it that simple. It's like, what are you looking for? Cool. Let me go find you the product. When I find it, you're paying me. Just that simple. There's really no like science or math around it because you can do as much calculations as you want. Fine. Um, I don't think it really matters. I mean, if you want a simple calculation, then why don't you just buy everything at 80 cents on the dollar? Because if you buy it at 80 cents on the dollar, I'm pretty sure you won't have a hard time finding a buyer for it.
So that's a great answer. Firstly, so you find in the buyers give you their criteria, and you get in your your bird dogs and all the different sources that you have for sourcing properties. They source the properties, and you sort of linking those properties up with buyers that have already given you their criteria, what they're looking to buy, the price points they're trying to hit, the specific condition they're trying to find it in, and then you sort of just linking it up that way.
Absolutely. That's why I like flipping and wholesaling. Just keep it simple, man. Matching buyers to house. That's it. No renovations, no mortgages, no down payment. Keep it simple.
I like that strategy because another thing is once you get a property under contract, you have a time limit. It's a ticking time bomb. Well, not a bomb that's going to go off, but it's a ticking time bomb and a specific time that you have to assign this before you essentially either have to extend those conditions or, you know, essentially let the deal fall through. And I've spoken to enough wholesalers to know that one of the biggest problems they have is finding a great deal and then having an investor potentially tie it up and not pull through on the deal, and then they end up potentially losing the deal. Any advice for people concerned about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Ari. Whenever somebody tells me, "Hey, Sai, I'm a wholesaler," I'm like, "Great. How many cash buyers do you have?" "Oh, I have zero." "Well, then guess what? You're not in the wholesaling business." Okay, that's why. Okay, so my buyers list is like fresh. It's hot, man. It's to the point where when I find a product, my guys will show up on site where I don't even go, man. They will go look at the house for me and say, "Sai, I want the house. Where do I send you the check?" That's the difference. Okay. Everybody wants to be a wannabe wholesaler. Like, I get it. It's fun. It's cool, you know? But the thing is, let me ask you a question. How many buyers do you have? How many cash buyers do you have that you can bring to the table would write a check on the spot? And when they tell me zero, I tell them, listen, you're not in the wholesaling business. That's why they're losing their deals.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. So I know here's another question for you is for those people looking to get started as a wholesaler, they don't have a buyer's list, they don't have a list of inventory coming in. Where should they, I mean, they should ideally focus on both, but that being said, the way you run things though, should they focus primarily on first getting a few cash buyers before really going out and marketing? Like it's almost like a chicken and an egg, right? Like which
It
where should they
is.
be focusing their attention first? How should they spread their attention between the two when they first get started?
Well, there's only four things that I think you should be doing as a real estate investor. Okay. Whether you're wholesaling, you're doing burrs, whatever. There's four things you should do with 80% of your time. If you're not doing these four things, straight up, you're wasting your time. You should be finding properties, right? Writing offers, finding money, and finding buyers. That's it. And there's really no science between how much effort you should be spending on either one of those four. You should just be doing those four at all times and letting all those four things spin like a crazy flywheel at 120 miles an hour until you're basically the I call it you're the super broker that basically just facilitates and puts all those four pieces together, and that's how you make money in real estate. That's how you hourly wage or your hourly rate explodes through the roof.
Hmm. I love that, man. Just keep adding fuel to the fire on all
That's
ends,
right.
right? And you know, that's how you can tell the difference between someone who's seasoned and done this enough times to someone who hasn't is you're able to break it down to its most fundamental, simplest form on what to focus on, right? You can give me a
100%.
whole big convoluted like you do this and then that and then that and then it just boils down to the fundamentals really.
100%, man. I mean, I always say, even as an entrepreneur, like, listen, the more complexity that you add to your business, you know what that does? All it does is add some more anxiety, more stress, more shiny objects, right? But if you just keep it simple, like the entrepreneur who keeps their business the most simplest will take the market share.
Because here's the thing though, the more complex it is, the less action you take, right? So if
Yeah,
it's simple, you know what the next step is, you know what you need to be focusing on, and you focus on that and you get good at the fundamentals. And ultimately that serves you in the long run, man.
exactly. That's why I'm always teaching rookies this all the time,
Yeah.
because I have a coaching program that teaches people how to do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. So where are you learning how to invest in real estate now? And what are you guys doing? And they give me this whole long, exhausting list. And I'm like, well, that's why you tried it for 24 months and haven't made progress, because there's a
Yeah.
zillion things you need to do right now where I'm just like, let's just do one simple thing at a time. And let's just focus and double down on that.
Now, here's one question I have for you. You mentioned having 33 different strategies for getting properties, for getting leads. Like, wow. How do you recommend when people get started? How many should they be tackling? How many strategies should they focus on? How do you recommend that so that they don't get overwhelmed with, oh, I should for sale by owner, flyer in, door knocking, this, that, and the other, and then they take on too much and don't take enough action to see anything through there.
I always say you have to treat it like a buffet list. Okay, they all work, but please only pick five. That's it.
Ooh, I love
Just
that.
pick five, and you have to be consistent, and you have to just keep doing it 3, 6 months. You have to have enough of a sample size in order to measure it. And then you can decide if you're going to chase the next shiny object. But you need a sample size to really test it.
I love that. So pick five. Don't pick 33 at once. Pick five.
That's right.
Start and then track how much effort and how much volume they put in into each one, so that they can see the input versus the output. Essentially,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
It's just like everything marketing, right? Everything we
yeah.
do in marketing, same thing. We're going to market something. We don't quit on day two. We don't try something and say, oh my gosh, it doesn't work. Like, this sucks. Let's just try the next marketing strategy. It's always like, why don't we just keep doing it until we have actual sample size that we can measure? Does it make sense? How many leads do we get from it? What quality leads do we get from it? And then we adjust and we pivot.
Now, tell me. I mean, you've already highlighted some, but what are some of the most common, especially with the fact that you help people get into the wholesaling space? What are the most common misconceptions you find that people have before getting started with wholesaling?
Yeah. So my number one advice is you have to pretty much remove everything you think you know about real estate. So, it's funny, Ellery, because when I started, right, I didn't know anything about real estate, dude. I thought that it was normal to go and give somebody $10 as a deposit for their house. Okay, so my realtor is like, Sai. I mean, my mentor said, Sai, one of the reasons why you did so well was because when you came to me, you didn't know anything about real estate, dude. So you didn't question anything I told you to do. You just thought it was normal. See, people's misconception is that the market's so hot that only people sell with real estate agents, and that they get this thing like this conception of that it has to be done a certain way because the news tells us that it's done that way. Whereas if you just the best thing you do is just remove all that, pretend you know nothing about real estate and start fresh. Be open minded and just be like, this is a whole new open world that I don't even understand yet, but I'm just going to take that information in and treat it as if I was like a little kid learning something new. And if you did that alone, you'd probably be farther than 95% of the population alone.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's you didn't have any of those false beliefs, those limiting beliefs that hold you back. That most people, those excuses that most people have. So it's a blank canvas for your mentor to just give you stuff to run with, right?
That's right.
Um, so what advice would you have for investors who are hesitant to start, wholesaling due to like the perceived risks involved with wholesaling?
My advice is this: please don't try to figure this out on your own. Okay, like seriously, maybe I'm biased because I'm a real estate coach, but straight up, I just don't think that anybody should go and try this on their own without some guidance. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, if you do it wrong, you could get sued. Okay, you could get a big lawsuit. Not only that, but you can seriously ruin people's lives.
Yeah.
Don't go and put stuff under contract and you don't know what the hell you're doing. And now the seller thinks you're actually going to close on it and you leave the seller with an empty bag at the end of the day. Please don't do that. I don't teach people to do that kind of garbage business. Okay. Because that seller, their life might have depended on you buying that house. You have no idea what is going on in their life and what they needed those funds for. What if they were buying another house? So that's what I'm saying. Like, please do not go try this. Do not go and listen to a bunch of YouTube and listen to, go check out on YouTube and this and that and think that you just know how to magically do it. Like, seriously, if you're going to do and you're going to be serious about this, get some guidance and do it right.
I love that. And you practice what you preach, man. You didn't just get started by yourself. You found someone who knew what they were doing. Paid
Oh,
them some money
100%,
so
dude.
that you could
Yeah.
learn, right? Yeah.
100% now, right? I mean, even till this day, I still have my own coaches and mentors all the time, man, because I'm always trying to learn new skills, new this, new that. And for me, I can either try to figure it out on my own, which would take me way longer, or do I just accelerate it? Just go after the person who's already done it who's already made all the mistakes, probably cost them way more than what you're paying them for coaching anyways. And then I just know that my skills are going to get upgraded constantly all the time. And then all of a sudden now I know how to do it in different markets. Now I know how to do it in this market. And I'll share something with you as well. All right, I'll raise that right now I'm scaling to do this in the US. Okay. And it's gonna be crazy, man. So that's my next move is once I figure it out in the US, it's gonna be bananas. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I recall that from the last time we spoke. Um, I honestly I couldn't agree more with you on that. You know, think about it this way: is if you were to get started without having that guidance, you would have probably ended up just using your own money,
Yeah.
right? You learned how to be resourceful from someone who's done this before, and how to overcome those challenges. So I'm a firm believer in paying someone so that you could leverage what they experience, leverage their experience, and just save yourself the time. Because at the end of the day, that's more valuable than the cost of getting that guidance. Now, do you have any memorable wins or success stories from your wholesaling career that you can share? Ones that stand out the most, because ultimately, yes, we are using this as a way to make money, a way to better our financial situation. But man, doesn't it feel good to win? Like, do you have any of those that just stand out? Like any struggles that you had and those wins that came along? Anything in particular?
I do. I have an awesome one actually, and I'll never forget it. It basically went like this. So when I was leaving my 9 to 5, I had a decision to make because I was a contractor, it's a consultant. And the company basically called me 2 weeks before Christmas and said, because I'm a contractor, basically said, "Hey, Sai, just so you know, we're not going to renew the contract." Like 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was like having my firstborn and everything like the month after and all that too, right? So I was like,
And
so
how deep were you into your investing wholesaling at this point?
I was still doing like part time. Like I was part time real estate investor, trying to get everything going, this and that. Like still learning. I was doing deals, but I wasn't doing like deals at a volume. You know what I mean? Like I was like still
Yeah.
like making mistakes and all that kind of stuff. And I was still depending on my 9 to 5. And my wife was pregnant. She doesn't work either. She's a homemaker. So basically, I wake up January 1st. There's no income in the house. Like, dude, there's zero income coming in that month. And so I had to make a decision. I said, listen, I can either go all in on this real estate investing thing, or do I find a job? And so I went and I did a whole bunch of job interviews and this and that, and it was crazy. Like people would look at me like in the weirdest way and be like, "Hold on, dude, you're an IT consultant. You're like way up here. Why are you applying for this job here? Like there's something wrong here." And I almost just wanted to grab the guy across the table his neck and say, "Because I need to feed my kids, man." But instead, yeah, I remember I got an offer. It was like $80,000 a year to go to Toronto, and it would require me to commute, pay on my own dime, and all that. So I'm like $80,000. Are you serious right now? And that was like a huge, huge like loss compared to what I was making as a consultant. Okay, huge, like significantly different. And so I said, screw it. I'm just gonna go in all in with this wholesaling thing. And so by March, April, I put a property under contract, and I flipped that thing in 5 days. Okay, it was done like I think it was like five. It was like actually it was like over a weekend. I remember I had it in contract Friday, and it was already like sold like Monday, and I made $65,000, man, on that deal. Okay, in 3 months. Or I could have went and work for freaking 12 months and make 80,000. And what's so cool about this deal, El Ray, is that the investor that I know, he ended up paying me $65,000 for that property. He kept it as a rental, and then he sold that same property on the height of the market, like before all the values came down. He sold it at the very height of it, and he made $600,000 more than what he bought it for me from. And it was only like a matter of like I think it was like a matter of like 5 6 years only. It was crazy. And then you know what he told me? He said, "Yo, Sai, man, I just made like $600,000 plus the principal pay down and all that, and I don't even know what to do with the money. So I'm gonna go to the Lamborghini shop and buy me a brand new Lamborghini Hurricane." And when he bought that car, he brought it to my house and everything, and I drove it. Like lime green and everything, man. And
Whoa.
I drove it and everything. And it was crazy. It was all because I flipped my house. Can you believe that, Elray? Like,
What
you want to buy
what
a
a
Lamborghini?
story, man.
Buy some real estate.
Should tell all your buyers that story, man.
I know, right? It's like, hey, you buy for me, you can buy a
You
Lamborghini
end up
for
with a
coming
Lamborghini.
in. Yeah, yeah, man.
Now that appreciation definitely doesn't happen here in Alberta, but wow, what a story, brother. What a story.
I
Um,
know, man. And then that's when I never looked back, dude. I was like, screw it, man. I can go all in on this thing, and why even go back to work? Seriously.
and I think the necessity just helps put that flame, that desire, to get this done. I need to. It's less of a want now, and I need to get this done. And I think it's probably the best decision you made.
Oh,
Is
100%, man. It's not like I had a backup plan.
Yeah.
It was either like it works or I'm gonna be broke, man.
So essentially, you got kicked out of the rat race. You didn't even exit the rat race yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I pretty much got kicked out of it. I had the option to go back. They're like, nope, I'm gonna fire myself from going back.
Now, you spoke about this. Is you don't recommend people go watch YouTube videos and just piece together a whole bunch of information from different parts of the world on how to go about wholesaling. What are some resources or books or courses that you recommend? Now, I think everyone up to this point knows that you specialize in this yourself and you help other people get into wholesaling. Other than, of course, going to yourself, and even going to yourself, like if you could just highlight resources that you'd recommend that you firmly believe people will find value in getting their wholesaling education from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird. I wish I could answer that question for you, buddy. But you know what the thing about me is this. I always like. Don't get me wrong. I do listen to YouTube podcasts, you name it. I read books, all that kind of stuff. Heck, even your podcast. I highly suggest people come here and listen to your podcast and all that. Okay, but every single time I do that, it's because I have a goal in mind, and my goal in
Yeah.
mind is to always just have a growth mindset. Is to always feed my brain with information that helps it grow. And that's my purpose around it. It's not to listen to something and actually implement it and use it. It's to inspire me that to help my mindset harden it as well and say, oh my gosh, like I'm listening to a guy on a podcast that actually was able to make it happen and all that. And the what I actually pay attention to the most, it's not so much the strategy and all the value. I actually listen to what is that person, what do they do that is so special that makes them successful? Because that's
Mm,
what I study all the time is habits of successful people. What are they doing that makes them so awesome at what they do? Yes, they have
yeah.
amazing knowledge. They have amazing value to give. Okay. But I'm actually more looking at the other side of it and saying, wow, like even you, Elray, I look at you as a successful person. And I'm like, most people probably wouldn't even have the guts to have a podcast, but you do. You know what I mean? Like I look at stuff like that when I listen to podcasts, when I listen to YouTube and all that. Great, there's tons of awesome information out there. It's all free, guys. You can piece it all together, but there's always going to be all these little nuances that come up, and you're not going to know how to deal with it. That's the problem. You know what I mean?
Fully agree with you on that. And I even think that's the difference between books, courses, podcasts. It's not the same like coaching,
Yeah,
because you find those roadblocks
inspiration.
along your way that you need that one-on-one guidance that you're not going to find from any of these other platforms. So I fully agree with you. And that's honestly why I listen to audiobooks, podcasts, and stuff as well. It's not particularly for the strategy um per se, but yeah, absolutely. Well said, honestly, Sai. Now, Sai, it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show called Time Capsule, and I'm really intrigued to see your answers for this.
Sure.
So let's imagine that you've stumbled across a time machine that allows you to travel back and forth in time. You can't change anything, but you can give and receive advice from your younger and older self. Now, first, let's go back to when you were 18. What, with the knowledge you now have, what advice would you give your younger self? Now, this can be business, can be investing, personal life in general, or just a combination of them all. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18 years old self, don't go to school. No, just kidding. School's a waste of time. No, just kidding. No, I would have to say that, listen, when I was 18 years old, dude, I was the most shyest kid ever, okay? All my report cards in grade school was Sai is too shy, Sai is too shy, Sai is too quiet. And that's why I ended up in IT, man, because I figured if I have an IT career, I don't have to talk to people.
Yeah.
So the advice I would give my 18-year-old self is get good at communicating and get some people skills. Like get out of your shell. You know, it's, I think that having people skills, communication skills alone, that is such a high paying skill that can make you so much money in life. And it's a universal skill that is good in every single form of life. Even when you're buying a TV and you're trying to get a deal from the guy, you know what I mean? Most people, if you're shy, if you're too quiet, you're going to be way too afraid to ask for a discount. You're going to be way
Yeah.
too afraid to negotiate. And so that's the advice I would give my 18-year-old self, because I was the most shyest person in the world. Like I never even thought in my whole life I could be a real estate investor.
Man, honestly, that mic drop. Mic drop, brother. I fully agree with that. Fully agree with that. One of my favorite books of all time to this day is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
I firmly believe in being able to articulate what you do, why you're good at what you do, whatever it is, your point of view onto the next person is extremely important. You can be really good at what you do, but if you can't articulate that to other people, they can't see your value, right?
100%.
Um, Even if that's just for a job or if it's for a proposition, whatever it's for. I would say if there's one superpower that would be the most superpower out of all the superpowers out there, it would be mind control, right? And this is a form of mind control in having people see what you see, essentially, or see what you're trying to get across, see your point, and being able to articulate yourself in an effective manner helps that. So, man, I mean, my little addition to what you said doesn't even compare. Like your answer is freaking fire, brother. I love that. So I want to hear the
Appreciate
next. I want to hear the next portion of this. So
it. Sure.
now, looking ahead at your 80th birthday, what advice do you imagine your future self would offer you at your present age? Now, I don't know if you can top the previous one, but let's give it a try.
Um, that's a tough one.
It
What
is a
would an
tough
18
one,
year
right?
old tell me right now?
80-year-old Sai opens the door and he sees you. Is like, I have to tell you something.
Yeah, I would probably have to say that one thing that I am really guilty of that I wish my 18-year-old self would have told me was that when I had my firstborn, Elray, I hustled hard, man. I hustled hard because that's when I was all in, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, because I hustled so hard on my with my firstborn, like I missed out on a lot of things. I did.
Yeah.
And I wish my 18-year-old self would have said, Sai, it's all good, man. Like these are the moments that you will never get back, dude. You know? Just enjoy it. And so when I had my second one, that's when I really, really learned how to set boundaries, because I promised myself when I had my second son that nope, I'm not serving people after 5 no more. Who cares? It's not worth it. I'm not serving people on weekends no more. It sounds like a Monday problem, and it's because I had to set those boundaries for me and my family. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't know that when I was going through my entrepreneur journey. I just thought that I had to chase everybody and serve everybody and basically, make money hand over fist and all that. So yeah, my 18-year-old self should have told me that. To just chill, man. Your kids are gonna grow. You're never gonna get it back, dude.
Man, that advice hits home. I have two younger kids myself, and it's something that you constantly have to keep yourself in check with. And I constantly tell
100%.
myself that is, in like 20 years time, they're going to be living their own lives, and you're going to be like, you just want to spend more time with them. Having an extra 100,000, having an extra $1 million, would it make that difference for you? Because
I know.
you
Can't get it
know
back.
you
Hmm.
you can't. It's just that's it, right? So
Yeah.
there's a certain point that you get to where, yeah, more money leads to more happiness, but eventually it doesn't, and you need to be able to have healthy boundaries so that you could enjoy the now, right? While
Yeah.
things are, yeah, while life is happening, because life doesn't stop for your hustle. So I love that advice, man. Both great answers. I thought you couldn't top the last one, but damn, that is awesome, man. So now I'm sure people listening to this point are like, I need to follow Sai Lee. This guy is filled with knowledge bombs. I've got a ton of value so far. I want to get more value from this guy. Where can listeners find out more about you?
Oh, absolutely. So if you put in your show notes, Elray, I do have
Absolutely.
a
I'll have it all in my description as well, all your links.
yeah.
But where's the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, so the best place is in my free private Facebook group. It's free, guys. Don't worry about it. I'm very approachable. Just join it. I'm always giving value bombs there, anyways. Free tips and tricks, free Facebook live training. Like you can't go wrong. It's Facebook. If Ellery drops it in show notes, amazing. And if you want to connect with me through there. Like send me a DM, send me a message through Facebook, and just say, "Hey, I heard you on Elray's podcast. Do you have a question? Can you help me with my real estate business? Whatever that is, man, I'm cool. I'm totally open book. You can also find me on Instagram as well and shoot me a message there as well. And I will connect with you. I promise I respond to every single person that sends me a message.
There may be people listening and they're like, hey, you know what, Sai, I've heard enough. I don't want to go to the Facebook group first. I want to go directly to find the resource to learn more about your coaching. Like I'm sold on this. Like I want to take this path. This is the path for me, and I need a mentor to help me get there. Where can they reach you firstly? And then follow up to that is, does it matter where in Canada they plan on wholesaling? Are there restrictions to where you can help people with their wholesaling journey?
Sure. So to answer your first question, they can go to my website as well. It's just www.fliprealestateforprofits.com. It has an S at the end. And so if you go to my website, there's nothing fancy there. But if you put in your information, you do get my calendar where we can set up a call right away. To answer your second question, wholesaling, flipping, it works anywhere in Canada. I want you guys to understand that I don't do this in the US. Everything that I've done up to date, only in Canada. That's it. So you're not getting one of those US coaches that are teaching you how to do things in the US that don't work here in Canada. Okay. It's going to be right in your own backyard. I have clients from Toronto, from out west, BC, Alberta, man, you name it, all over Canada. Doesn't matter because you know why it works, and it works in any environment. Doesn't matter if rates are high, doesn't matter if the market's hot, doesn't matter if the market is slow, because we're going to keep it simple, guys. Buy low, sell high. That's it.
Yeah, honestly, I get this question from a lot of less experienced investors, and they're like, are people still buying? Are deals still happening? I'm like, the seasoned investors are always doing deals, right? You just maybe
All the
adjusting your
time.
strategy based on market conditions, but deals are always being done, man. Always. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And they're
I
always
couldn't agree
looking for
more.
deals. So go find them deals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time out, brother. This has been amazing. We have to do this again sometime.
Hey, thank you, brother, for having me here. It's always fun, Elry.
Thank you for tuning in to Building Wealth Through Real Estate. If you're interested in learning how to make your interest portion payments on your mortgage tax deductible, pay up your home a whole lot quicker, as well as take advantage of other wealth building strategies, then you definitely want to check out my interview with Robinson Smith. This is your host, Alray Noble, signing off.